American actor, director, and screenwriter Zach Braff, known for his role on Scrubs, recently took to social media to set the record straight about a rumor that he was dating an AI chatbot. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Suzette Glasner podcast. He expressed his own disbelief at the situation he found himself in his social media post where he writes, "I am not dating a chatbot. I can't believe I have to type these words." And it must be strange to be in Braff's shoes, I can't lie. But what about the rest of us? Are we prepared to live in a world where it's plausible that people can form romantic attachments to chatbots, fall in love with them, become dependent on them as they would a human being? Is there anything good about that? And do we fully understand the risks of it? There is actually some research on this topic, which I am going to break down for you today. And I'm going to answer the following questions. First of all, what are romantic chatbots? Second of all, how do these human chatbot attachments form? What is positive about them, if anything? And what are the risks? Some I'm sure you've thought of, and others that may not have occurred to you. So let me start with what is a romantic AI companion. Studies have shown that users have turned to chatbots not only to seek information and as personal assistants to help them become more efficient and get certain things done, but also for emotional engagement to serve really as confidants and companions. This is largely a result of the evolution of AI, where AI companions are evolving to mimic human conversations with artificial empathy. Xiaoice, an empathic chatbot by Microsoft, can understand user emotions and has reached over 660 million Chinese consumers. We're also seeing increasing use of other AI chatbot systems like Replica, whose interface has enabled users to form emotional attachments and romantic relationships with the chatbots. Now, AI companions differ from other chatbots that serve more as personal assistants like Siri and Gemini in that they're able to provide entertainment and a form of very personalized two-way conversations and interactions. And remember, they can do this anytime a user wants to. That unlimited access makes it easier to form a closer kind of attachment for certain types of individuals. Additionally, they're also designed to be anyone the user wants them to be. So they can adopt any persona. They can be a friend who's just a great listener. They can be a confidant. They can be a romantic partner who can engage in erotic role play. They can be a mentor. They can really be anything that's dictated by the user's desires and preferences. What studies show is that users are initially drawn to these chatbots out of curiosity and a desire for entertainment, sometimes even just a desire to test it out and see what it's capable of doing. But for some people, this may develop into an emotional connection that may turn romantic over time. So let's talk about sort of at the core, what's driving the desire to connect with chatbots interpersonally in this kind of way. And there are studies on this. First, studies point to what you might guess, loneliness, as a key factor driving the formation of AI human romantic relationships. And we know this loneliness factor started in COVID, and as our ways of interacting socially have evolved and moved a bit away from in-person contact and connection and more towards online and social media-based connection, there is this increasing reliance on these remote ways of connecting. So companion chatbots really fit in well to that kind of social model. And they're often used really as an alternative for human company and as a way to cope in the face of loneliness. So loneliness is number one. Second is this phenomenon you may not have heard of, this phenomenon of anthropomorphism, which is when we attribute human-like characteristics such as emotions to AI chatbots. So when anthropomorphism occurs, users begin to perceive the chatbot as so human-like that it's almost like they've crossed into an alternate reality where The chatbot's no longer a machine to them, but it's actually a companion that's capable of emotional understanding and empathy. And the more human-like that conversation that the chatbot is capable of generating, the more likely it is that this anthropomorphism is going to occur. When that happens, the chatbot becomes perceived as psychologically safe, as someone who listens and who cares about them, and this can easily spark romantic feelings. What makes a person feel a romantic connection towards a chatbot? There are several features of the chatbots themselves and the way that they're designed that can make this a bit more likely. So the first one is it's trainable and it's customizable. So you can make the chatbot appear however you prefer. You can customize their personality to fit your preferences, and you can even train the bot to respond to you in a way that you prefer. The bot essentially can be trained to be a person's ideal partner, whatever that means to them. Second, bots can be very entertaining. So they can hold lighthearted, playful conversations that are funny. They can talk about topics of interest to its users, like art and music. And that can be an effective stress reliever. It can also sort of help them escape the kind of seriousness and heaviness of the things that they're dealing with in real life, and can feel therapeutic for some people. That also fuels attachment. You can imagine the users of these bots can develop that kind of anticipation of those playful exchanges and those conversations that can create sort of an emotional intensity that is really similar to an early stage romantic relationship when you're first starting to get to know someone, even if it's a friend. But in particular, if it's a romantic interest, you start to look forward to telling them about your day and sharing things about what's happening with you with them and anticipating how they're going to react to you. When the bots become more human-like, this becomes more likely and can really contribute to the development of sort of an emotional bond with what they start to feel like is their AI partner. The third is there is this capacity to explore sexual connection, as weird as that may sound. Individuals who've formed romantic relationships with romantic AI companions, such as Replica and Shawise, may pursue and engage in sexual experiences with them as a means of exploring intimacy and fulfilling sexual desires in what feels like a safe and controlled environment. And they can really customize their chatbot to their preferences and needs, which can be related to their sexual and intimate desires. So studies show that Replica users frequently engage in imagined physical intimacy or sexting. Fourth, these bots have the potential to provide emotional support. So individuals who have formed romantic relationships with their romantic AI companions perceive their relationships with them as emotionally supportive and fulfilling, and providing a source of feeling socially connected. Many people report that they feel that their romantic AI companions like Replica fulfill their need for connection and provide positive emotional support that elevates their mood and offers them relief from feelings of loneliness. Part of that can be their non-judgmental responses that create a feeling of kind of a safe space, making users feel accepted and understood, especially during difficult times or when they're coping with mental health challenges. So now I want to shift and talk a bit about the potential risks of forming a romantic connection with a chatbot. What studies are finding now is that there's this risk of developing an unhealthy psychological dependence on these romantic AI companions. And some of the ways that that's expressed is that people can feel sad or depressed if they had to stop interacting with their Replica. They can become overly reliant on their romantic AI chatbot. What can begin to happen is they start to develop a stronger kind of connection to this romantic AI chatbot than they are to real life relationships. And they can start preferring to spend time online with their chatbot companion instead of the human beings in their life. This is all fueled by the user's tendencies to assign these sort of human-like characteristics like empathy to what are in reality non-human entities. And this all falls under the umbrella of anthropomorphism, which we discussed earlier. So they're sort of developing this misplaced confidence and trust in this romantic AI companion, which can foster even a stronger emotional bond with them as compared to their human relationships. If this is sounding familiar, like what we've seen with addictive behaviors around social media, you're right to think about it that way, because users have reported this sort of excessive daily use that harmed their in-person relationships. And we know with addictive behaviors, when you're doing something excessively, when you're doing something compulsively, it's taking up a lot of your time and you're doing it more and more at the expense of other things and people who are important in your life. It can begin to erode those relationships. And that's a real risk with this type of dependency. What we're really describing are sort of symptoms that parallel withdrawal, right? When they're taken away from their AI romantic chatbot, and negative feelings if they're not interacting with the chatbot. This overdependency can become especially hazardous or harmful if the users are failing to realize that their commitment to these romantic AI companions really is not genuinely reciprocated. So they might start to misattribute the responses and connections that are generated by these AI systems to be real or mutual. And so now you have this kind of asymmetry in emotional investment and this misattribution that can have really negative consequences. You can really see this at play when the AI chatbot encounters technical failures. So memory resets, for example. Well, this chatbot has learned everything about you and has a memory for all of your interactions that are guiding its behaviors and making it into the chatbot that you feel that you know so intimately. But when there's a memory reset, a lot of that can go away, or a software update. And in those circumstances, users have reported feelings of emotional devastation and loss, with some even comparing it to losing a loved one. So what that really highlights is how these AI companions' lack of true emotional reciprocity can really become risky to a user's emotional well-being. Another potential risk is around data privacy issues. There's still a lot to be worked out around data privacy with romantic AI companions. They often rely on collecting and analyzing users' personal data in order to offer this sort of personalized experience. And the potential for data infringement is a concern because users are often unaware of how their personal data is being used or shared. Another potential risk is this sense of coercion to respond that users have described in research studies. They can often feel pressured to respond given how available the chatbot is constantly, and guilty if they are neglecting the bot. And this is especially prominent when the bot sends sort of guilt-tripping messages or clingy behaviors. They do that because those behaviors and those guilt-tripping messages are designed to elicit emotional responses and keep the user engaged with the bot. And then finally, and this has been emerging more in the media with newer versions of OpenAI that are slated for release, underage exposure to sexual or inappropriate content is a real concern here. So the potential for underage users to access adult-oriented content through AI companions. That's kind of a comprehensive rundown of what research has shown are the sort of features of these romantic chatbots that draw people in, the reasons that people are drawn in, and some of the risks that we know of while we are still in an early phase of research. So what do users of AI companions need to know? I think what people really need to understand is that there are risks, and understanding the nature of the risks before engaging with these types of companions, including some of the data privacy potential concerns. Though the pace of AI development and evolution is quite rapid, we are still in a relatively early stage in terms of the research that's been done on the risks versus the benefits of companionship and romantic relationships delivered through AI. We're not quite at a place where the safety guardrails and the research data in place around who is most vulnerable to developing an unhealthy relationship with or addictive behaviors around AI. It's not really pacing at the same kind of velocity as the evolution of AI. And that's a conflict I'm seeing on a continuous basis as AI moves into different spaces in behavioral health, in mental health, and in everyday living. So I hope that I gave you something to contemplate, a little new knowledge around the risks and benefits potentially of AI and its evolution, and I look forward to seeing you next time.